Chapter 8.5, start of the part 2 of the last chapter we're going to work on is factoring. So in all of the stuff that we've done before, we've distributed. So if we get a problem like x times x plus 1, we're multiplying out x squared plus x. That's what we've done before. Now we're going to factor. Factoring is the opposite of distribute. So we're going to try to start with this. So start x squared plus x, and now we're going to go back to this. So what do these two things have in common? Well, they both have x's, so let's factor that out in front. What times x gets x squared? X. What times x gets x plus 1? So it's the opposite of what we're doing, what we did before, where we multiplied everything out. Now we're going to go and factor. We're going to take it out and make it look like the beginning of a problem before. So if we look at letter A, first we look at the numbers. Well, what's the biggest number both of those two things have in common? 9 times 3, 9 times 2. So they both have 9s. And then look at the letters. They both have y's, so let's take a y out. You could take y squared, you could take y to the third if they all had that in common. So 9y, 9 times what is 27? 9 times 3. Y times what is y squared? Y plus 9 times 2 is 18. Y times 1 is y. So this would be your answer in factored form. Doing the opposite, taking it out. You could go and multiply this out again to see if you get what you started with. So if we want to check, we could do 9 times 3 is 27, y times y, y squared, plus 18y. So we check out okay. Try letter B on your own. Factor out what they all have in common. Letters, numbers, everything they have out in common. I'll pause it now. You try it, and then I'll go. First, I look for numbers. So 4, 8, and 2, they all have a factor of 2 in common. Then we look at letters. A squared, A, and A. So let's take out an 1A. And B, B squared, and B. So let's take out the B. Now, what do we have left? 2 times what is negative 4? Negative 2. We took out the B. We took out one of the two A's in A squared. Minus 2 times negative 4. Took out the A, we have a B left, plus we took out everything, so what times this gets that? 1. Don't forget about this. This will be a common mistake that students make. There is a 1 left over, not 0. Hopefully you got that. Flip over to the back. Next, we're going to solve problems like this. So we factored out stuff. Now we need to try to solve it. So let's go over here to my hint. Well, we have two numbers multiplied by each other and they're equal to 0. So that's kind of like, let's say x is 5. What does y have to be? Oh, well, y has to be 0. It can't be anything else. And if we do the other way, if we say y is 5, what does x have to be? Well, x has got to be 0. So either x has to be 0 or y has to be 0 or both in order to make this statement true. That works the same here. We're multiplying a number times another number. Well, 2d plus 6 has to be 0 or 3d minus 15 has to be 0. One of these has to be 0 or both have to be 0 in order to make this 0. So solve this, subtract the 6, divide by 2. D, if you put negative 3 in here, you'll make that 0. And if you put 5 in over here. So our answers here are both of those numbers. Look at B. The first step here is we should make it equal to 0. So let's subtract the 3c. C squared minus 3c equals 0. Now we're equal to 0. Now we look to factor this. What do those two things have in common? Hopefully you saw the c. And then it becomes a problem just like we did up there. What goes in here to make this 0? C equals 0. And what goes in here to make this 0? What minus 3? 3 minus 3. C equals 3. We can check our answers by putting them back in here. 0 equals 3 times 0. That's true. 9, 3 squared equals 3 times 3. That's also true. Then going on to another type of factoring. This is factoring by grouping. So we're going to group stuff together. Most of the time it's the first two terms we put together and the second two terms we put together. And look at what do these two have in common. Well, there's a 4 and an 8, so they both have a 4 in common. And they both have r's. So q plus 2. What do these have in common? Plus, they both have a 3, q plus 2. Oh, weird. Now we have a q plus 2 and a q plus 2. Let's factor that out in front. So we have q plus 2, and then we took this away, so we have 4r and plus 3. This is a lot harder for students to see, but I'll start you out with the next one and then pause it and take it, see if you can do it. Group these two and these two together. What do these two have in common? Factor that out. What do these two have in common? Factor that out. I'll pause it here. Well, they both have a 2 in common and an m. And here we have k minus 6. And then plus, these both have a 7 in common, 6 minus k. Well, these are almost the same. Here we have k minus 6, 6 minus k. If we change this to a negative 7, watch what happens. Minus 7, I'm going to factor out a negative. So if I factor out a negative here, this becomes a negative 6, and this becomes plus k. Or k minus 6. And now we have a k minus 6, k minus 6, so let's factor that out in front. K minus 6 times 2m minus 7. 2m minus 7 after we factored it out. That is your final answer.